A racist cop orders a young black man off what he assumes is private property, laughing at him. But that cop has no idea who he's talking to. He just made the biggest mistake of his entire career. This is the story of how one man's bottomless arrogance led to his complete and total destruction. Officer Darren Miller believes in order. It is a simple, clean concept. Like a freshly pressed uniform or the gleaming hood of his patrol car. Order has lines. It has boundaries. It has fences and gates and meticulously manicured lawns that stretch like green carpets to the doorsteps of stone-faced mansions. The neighborhood of Evergreen Bluffs is the very embodiment of that order. Here, the world is as it should be. The sun shines a little brighter. The air smells of cut grass and money. The silence is deep and placid, broken only by the polite hum of a luxury sedan or the distant, cheerful bark of a purebred dog. Miller sees himself not merely as a police officer in this domain, but as its guardian. A sentinel posted on the walls of paradise, tasked with repelling the chaos that churns just beyond its borders. Chaos, in Miller's mind, has a specific look. It is untucked shirts and worn sneakers. It is music played a little too loud from a phone. It is skin that is not the pale, sun-kissed shade of the residents who pay his salary through their exorbitant property taxes. His patrol car moves like a shark through these placid waters, a silent predator in a world without prey. The engine is a low whisper against the curb. He is bored. The morning has been a tedious procession of nothing, a false alarm from a sensitive security system, a complaint about a landscaping crew starting their leaf blowers 5 minutes too early. He craves a disruption. Something to validate his presence. Something to remind these people why they need a man like him. And then, he sees it. An anomaly. A stain on the perfect canvas. Leaning against the formidable stone wall that marks the boundary of the Vance estate is a boy. Or a young man. 17, maybe 18. He wears a grey hoodie, the hood down, and dark jeans. On his feet are sneakers that have seen better days. Earbuds are nestled in his ears, a thin white wire snaking down to the phone in his hand. He is an island of casual imperfection in an ocean of curated wealth. And he is black. To Miller, this is not a person. It is a problem. A piece of litter on a pristine lawn. A variable in an equation that should have been solved long ago. The patrol car glides to a stop, its tires making no sound on the hot asphalt. The engine cuts out, and the sudden silence is heavy, accusatory. For a moment, Miller just watches. He takes in the scene. The boy, Leo, seems oblivious. He is tapping his foot to a rhythm only he can hear, his head nodding slightly. He looks relaxed. Too relaxed. His presence is a challenge, an act of defiance against the unwritten laws of this place. Miller's hand rests on the door handle. A slow smile, thin and sharp as a razor, touches his lips. The boredom is gone. The hunt has begun. Leo feels the eyes on him before he sees them. It is a familiar sensation, a prickling on the back of his neck that he learned to recognize long before he was tall enough to see over a countertop. It is the feeling of being watched, of being assessed, of being judged. He pulls an earbud out, and the intricate beat of the music in his head is replaced by the oppressive quiet of the street. He turns his head slowly. The police cruiser is parked 20 feet away, a monolith of black and white authority. A predator that has frozen mid-stalk. He feels a familiar, weary sigh build in his chest, but he doesn't let it out. His grandfather's voice echoes in his memory, a calm and steady baritone from 1,000 different lessons. Stay calm. Be polite. Never give them an excuse. Let their own anger be their undoing. The car door opens with a clinical click. The officer who emerges is a man built from straight lines and hard angles. His jaw is square, his shoulders broad, his gaze a flat, emotionless gray. He is a man carved from granite and prejudice. He adjusts his belt, the movement slow and deliberate, a display of ownership. He owns this street. He owns this silence. And he believes he owns the boy standing in it. Leo straightens up, pushing himself off the cool stone of the wall. He lets his hands hang loosely at his sides, open and visible. Another lesson from his grandfather. Show them you are not a threat, even when they are determined to see you as one. The officer, Miller, approaches without haste. His boots make a soft, rhythmic crunch on the gravel shoulder. The sound seems unnaturally loud. Each step is a hammer blow, driving a wedge into the morning's peace. Something I can help you with. Miller's voice is a low rumble, coated in a sticky film of condescension. It is not a question. It is an accusation. Leo keeps his own voice level, neutral. No, sir. I'm just waiting. Waiting. Miller repeats the word as if it's a foreign concept, something absurd and unbelievable. He stops a few feet from Leo, positioning himself to block any path of retreat, though Leo has no intention of moving. Waiting for what? A bus? There are no bus stops in Evergreen Bluffs. He already knows the answer. There is no bus stop for miles. It is a detail meant to trap, to expose. No, sir. I'm waiting for my grandfather. A flicker of something, amusement, disbelief, crosses Miller's face. He glances from Leo's face to the colossal wrought-iron gates of the Vance estate just a few yards away. The gates are a masterpiece of black steel, twisted into elegant, intimidating patterns. Beyond them, a long, winding driveway disappears into a forest of ancient oak trees. The house itself is not visible from the road. It is a fortress of wealth and privacy. Your grandfather, Miller says again, the corner of his mouth twitching. Right. And does your grandfather live around here? Yes, sir. He lives right here. Leo gestures with a slight nod of his head toward the gates. The officer's smirk blossoms into a full-blown grin of contempt. It is a cold, ugly thing. He looks Leo up and down again, his eyes lingering on the worn fabric of his jeans, the scuff marks on his sneakers. The assessment is quick, and the verdict is absolute. Guilty. Of not belonging. Son, let's cut the games, Miller says, his tone shifting from mock politeness to undisguised intimidation. You're loitering. This is private property. He gestures vaguely at the manicured grass verge, the stone wall, the entire world around them. I'm on the sidewalk, sir, Leo says, his voice still maddeningly calm. This is public access. The correction irritates Miller. The boy is too composed. Too articulate. He is supposed to be scared, stammering, looking for an escape. This quiet confidence feels like insubordination. I decide what's public and what's private around here, Miller snaps, taking a step closer. The air between them crackles. I want to see some identification. Now. Leo nods slowly. He reaches into his back pocket, his movements measured and deliberate, telegraphing every inch of the motion. He pulls out his wallet. He can feel the heat of Miller's gaze on his hands, waiting, hoping for a twitch, a sudden movement, any excuse to escalate. He carefully extracts his driver's license and holds it out. Miller snatches it from his fingers. He studies the small plastic card, his eyes darting between the photo and Leo's face. Leo Vance. You live on the other side of town. It is another accusation. You are not from here. You are an invader. I do, Leo confirms. I took a ride share here this morning. Miller grunts. He turns his back on Leo, walking with a swagger back to his cruiser. He is going to run the name. He is hoping for a warrant, a prior, anything to confirm the narrative he has already written in his head. Leo waits. The sun is higher now, beating down on the street. He can feel a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple. He resists the urge to wipe it away. He remains perfectly still. A statue of patience. He knows this part of the dance all too well. The attempt to find a flaw, a crack in the story. The desperate search for a justification for the suspicion that has already hardened into certainty. After a few minutes, Miller gets out of his car. His face is tight with disappointment. The license is clean. The record is spotless. The boy is just a boy. This does not deter Miller. It only fuels his frustration. He stalks back toward Leo, tossing the license back at him. Leo catches it deftly. "So, your story is you're waiting for your grandfather who lives in the biggest mansion in the county," Miller says, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "What's the plan, Leo? Wait for the owners to leave so you can hop the fence?" Casing the joint. "I'm waiting for him to open the gate," Leo says, his patience beginning to fray at the edges. The calm is a discipline, not an absence of feeling. And the feeling rising in him now is a cold, sharp anger. "Right." The gate. Miller laughs, a harsh, barking sound that echoes in the quiet street. "Let me give you some friendly advice. You need to move along. Your presence here is making people nervous." "I haven't seen anyone else, sir." "I'm people," Miller says, his voice dropping to a low growl. "And you're making me very nervous. I could take you in. Loitering with intent. It's a real charge. I can make it stick. You can spend a night in a holding cell, and we can call your parents in the morning to come and pick up their little delinquent. Is that what you want?" The threat hangs in the air, thick and suffocating. The night in a cell. The shame. The fear. It is a weapon he has used 100 times on boys who look just like Leo, and it has always worked. But Leo doesn't flinch. He just looks at the officer, his gaze steady. "All I want is for my grandfather to open the gate." As Leo puts his license back in his wallet, a photograph slips partially out. It's a worn, creased picture of him as a child, beaming, sandwiched between his grandmother and grandfather. Miller's eyes dart down to it. He points at the photo with a thick finger. "Is that him? Your grandfather?" Leo nods. Miller lets out another cruel laugh. He looks at the elderly black man in the photo, a man with a kind, smiling face, and then he looks toward the imposing estate. "Your grandfather," he says, the word slithering from his mouth, heavy with poison. "Let me guess. He's the gardener." And there it is. The line. It has been crossed. The carefully constructed calm inside Leo finally shatters. It doesn't explode outwards. It implodes, collapsing into a single, dense point of ice-cold fury. His expression doesn't change, but his eyes do. The polite neutrality is gone, replaced by a look of profound and absolute contempt. He doesn't say a word. He just looks at Officer Miller. And for the first time, the officer feels a faint, unsettling flicker of doubt. The boy's silence is suddenly heavier than any shouted insult. It is the silence of a judge who has just heard the last piece of evidence and is preparing to pass sentence. The air crackles with unspoken finality. Miller has made his move. He has laid his prejudice on the table for all to see. Now, he is about to see the hand he was playing against. Just as Miller opens his mouth to escalate further, to turn his verbal assault into a physical one, a sound cuts through the tension. It is not a loud sound. It is a quiet, metallic click. The sound is followed by a low, almost inaudible hum. Both Leo and Miller turn toward the source. The massive, ornate gates of the Vance estate, which had stood as an impenetrable barrier, are now in motion. They swing inward, smoothly and silently, like the doors to a king's throne room being opened by an unseen hand. The sudden movement is startling. Miller takes an involuntary step back, his bravado momentarily forgotten. The gates are a symbol of the power and privacy of this place, and their opening feels like a momentous event. A figure appears in the gap. It is an old man. He is tall and lean, with a crown of close-cropped white hair that shines in the morning sun. He wears simple khaki trousers and a plain, dark blue polo shirt. In one hand, he holds a small pair of gardening shears, the blades glinting. He moves with a slow, deliberate grace, his posture perfect, his gaze serene. Miller's brain processes the image instantly: old man, simple clothes, gardening shears. His racist assumption clicks into place with the satisfying certainty of a key turning in a lock. His grin returns, wider and more malicious than before. He has been proven right. His worldview is affirmed. He turns to Leo, his voice triumphant. "Well, what do you know?" he sneers. "See, kid? Told you. Your ride's here. Looks like Grandpa is done trimming the hedges." Leo doesn't respond. His eyes are fixed on the old man, and the cold fury in them is slowly being replaced by something else. Relief. Love. The old man, Arthur Vance, ignores Officer Miller completely. His eyes, a startlingly sharp and intelligent blue, find his grandson's. A flicker of concern crosses his face. "Leo," he says. His voice is a calm, resonant baritone. It is not loud, but it carries an undeniable weight, a natural authority that commands attention. "Is this man bothering you?" The question is directed at Leo, but its implication is aimed squarely at Miller. The word man is used instead of officer. It is a subtle but significant demotion. Miller, puffed up with his own perceived victory, steps forward. He places himself between Arthur and Leo, a human wall of arrogance. "Sir, I'm Officer Miller," he announces, his voice booming with self-importance. "I'm handling a situation here. This young man was trespassing on private property, acting suspiciously." Arthur Vance's gaze shifts from Leo to Miller. He looks at the officer, really looks at him, and Miller feels a strange, prickling sensation, as if his uniform and badge and gun are being stripped away, leaving him exposed and wanting. "First," Arthur says, his voice dropping a notch, becoming colder, more precise. "He is my grandson. His name is Leo Vance." Miller's smirk falters. "Second," Arthur continues, his tone unwavering, "he was standing on a public sidewalk, which you well know. He was not trespassing on anything." The smirk vanishes completely. "And third," Arthur says, his eyes flicking for a moment to the patrol car parked haphazardly by the curb. "You have parked your municipal vehicle in a designated no-stopping zone, which is a traffic violation. And more importantly, you have been detaining and harassing a minor without cause for the last 15 minutes. Each statement is delivered like a surgeon's incision, clean, precise, and cutting deep. Miller is momentarily speechless. The gardener is talking back. The gardener knows legal terms. The gardener has an air of authority that is deeply, fundamentally wrong. It doesn't fit the picture Miller has painted. "Now, sir," Miller stammers, falling back on the bluster that has always served him so well. "You need to let me handle my police work. This is an official. Is it official police work to profile a child based on his race?" Arthur interrupts. The question is soft, almost conversational, but it hits Miller like a physical blow. "I was not. I was ensuring the safety of the neighborhood." Miller sputters, his face beginning to flush. He can feel the ground shifting beneath his feet. The solid foundation of his authority is turning to sand. Arthur Vance takes a slow step forward. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. The power radiating from him is absolute, a quiet gravity that bends the world around it. "Leo," he says, his eyes once again on his grandson. "Tell me, word for word, what did this officer say to you?" And Leo, his voice clear and steady, begins to speak. He recounts the entire conversation. The questions about the bus stop. The accusation of loitering. The threat of a night in a cell. And then, he delivers the final, damning line. "He saw a picture of you in my wallet, Grandpa. He asked if you were the gardener." A profound silence descends. Arthur Vance's expression does not change. There is no flash of anger, no theatrical outrage. There is only a deep, chilling stillness. He looks at Miller, and in that moment, Miller understands. He has not made a mistake. He has committed an act of self-destruction. The power dynamic in the quiet street has not just shifted. It has been completely and irrevocably inverted. The hunter has become the prey. And the trap he so carefully set for a boy has just snapped shut on his own leg. Arthur Vance listens to his grandson's account without interruption. His face is a mask of calm, but his eyes are like chips of ice. When Leo finishes, Arthur gives him a slight, reassuring nod before turning his full attention back to the rapidly paling Officer Miller. "The gardener," Arthur says, the words soft but laden with an immense, crushing weight. He holds up the shears in his hand. "An easy mistake to make, I suppose. If you are a man who sees the world only through a keyhole of prejudice." He slips the shears into the pocket of his trousers. Then, he pulls out a phone. It is a simple, sleek device, but in his hand, it looks like a weapon. "Officer Miller," he begins, his voice as calm and methodical as a university lecturer. "I trust you are aware that my entire property, including the street-facing perimeter wall you and my grandson were standing near, is under constant surveillance." Miller's eyes widen. It is a state-of-the-art system. 4K resolution. Directional audio microphones with noise cancellation technology. It has been recording every word, every gesture, since the moment your vehicle came to a stop. Arthur tilts the phone screen toward Miller. On it, a crystal-clear, multi-angle video feed is playing. There is Miller's car, parked illegally. There is Miller, his body language aggressive and intimidating. There is Leo, calm and still. The audio is pristine. Miller's sneering voice, his accusations, his threats, and the final, ugly comment about the gardener, it is all there, captured in perfect, undeniable clarity. This footage, Arthur continues, is currently being uploaded to a secure cloud server, with copies simultaneously being sent to 3 separate legal firms. A purely precautionary measure, you understand. Miller's mouth opens and closes, but no sound comes out. He looks like a fish gasping for air on the deck of a boat. The blood has drained from his face, leaving behind a pasty, grey pallor. Sweat beads on his forehead and upper lip. Furthermore, Arthur says, his gaze unwavering, "I am certain that your department requires you to wear and activate a body camera during any interaction with the public. We will, of course, be filing an immediate formal request for that footage under the Freedom of Information Act. I do hope for your sake that it was, in fact, recording. Tampering with such evidence carries significant penalties." The officer's hand instinctively goes to the small black box on his chest. It is on. The little green light is blinking. He had activated it out of habit, confident that it would record his righteous enforcement of the law. Now, that blinking green light feels like the eye of a serpent, watching him, judging him, condemning him. Arthur Vance raises the phone to his ear. He taps the screen once. He does not dial a number. It is a speed dial. A direct line. "Chief Reynolds, please," he says into the phone. There is no preamble, no introduction. He speaks as a man who expects to be put through without question. Miller's entire body goes rigid. Chief Reynolds. He knows the name. Everyone on the force knows the name. Chief Frank Reynolds is a man who walks on eggshells, a politician in a police uniform whose primary concern is managing the city's powerful and wealthy interests. There is a short pause. "Frank," Arthur says, his tone familiar, yet devoid of warmth. "It's Arthur Vance." Miller flinches as if he has been struck. Arthur Vance. The Arthur Vance. The reclusive titan of finance who owned half the commercial real estate downtown. The philanthropist whose name was on the new cardiac wing of the city hospital and the university's law school. The man who could end a career with a single, quiet phone call. The pieces of the puzzle slammed together in Miller's mind with the force of a car crash. The mansion. The name on the boy's license. Vance. Leo Vance. Arthur Vance. The gardener. A wave of nausea rolls through him. "I'm fine, Frank, thank you for asking," Arthur is saying into the phone, his voice a low, dangerous murmur that Miller can overhear. "Unfortunately, I can't say the same for your department's community outreach program. I'm afraid we have a problem down here at my residence." Arthur pauses, listening. "Yes, an officer. He's right here with me. His name, Arthur's eyes lock onto Miller's, and they are utterly devoid of mercy, is Officer Darren Miller. Badge number 714". Miller feels his knees weaken. He can hear the tinny, panicked sound of the chief's voice squawking through the phone's earpiece, even from several feet away. "Oh, he's done quite a bit, Frank," Arthur continues. "Let's see. Illegal detention of a minor. Baseless accusations. Verbal harassment. And a rather stunning display of racial prejudice that I now have documented in high-definition video and audio. He seems to believe that my grandson's presence on a public sidewalk constitutes grounds for an arrest because he doesn't look like he belongs in this neighborhood." Another pause. "No, Frank, I don't want you to have a word with him. I want you to come down here. Immediately. And I want you to bring his commanding officer with you. We are going to handle this. Right now." Arthur listens for another moment, then says, "I'll be waiting," and ends the call. He lowers the phone and slips it back into his pocket. The entire exchange took less than a minute. In that minute, Officer Darren Miller's world has been systematically and completely dismantled. The bravado, the arrogance, the certainty, it has all evaporated, leaving behind a trembling, sweating man in a uniform that suddenly seems 2 sizes too big. "Sir," Miller begins, his voice a pathetic, cracking whisper. "Mr. Vance." "Sir. I apologize. There has been a terrible misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Arthur repeats the word, his voice soft as silk and sharp as glass. "No, officer. I think you understood the situation perfectly, from your point of view. You saw a young black man in a wealthy neighborhood, and you assumed he was a criminal. You saw an old man in simple clothes, and you assumed he was a servant." Arthur takes another step closer, until he is standing directly in front of the cowering officer. "You didn't misunderstand anything, Officer Miller," he says, his voice a low, devastating whisper. "You just made a very, very bad calculation. You assessed the board, and you decided to bully a pawn. You failed to realize you were threatening the son of the king." The silence that follows Arthur Vance's final declaration is absolute. It presses in on them, thick and heavy as water. Miller stands frozen, his face a mask of dawning horror. The street, once his kingdom, has become his execution grounds. The sun, once a friendly warmth, now feels like the heat of a spotlight, exposing his every flaw. It does not take long. In the distance, a siren wails. Then another. The sounds grow closer at an alarming rate, a chorus of impending doom. They are not coming with the leisurely pace of a routine call. They are coming with the urgency of a crisis. Within 3 minutes, the street is flooded with flashing red and blue lights. 2 patrol cars and a black, unmarked sedan screech to a halt, boxing in Miller's cruiser. Doors fly open. A sergeant, a man with a grim, weary face, emerges from the first car. From the sedan steps a man in a crisp, dark suit. His hair is perfectly coiffed, his face pale with anxiety. He is Chief of Police Frank Reynolds, and he looks like he is on his way to his own funeral. The chief ignores Miller completely. He doesn't even glance in his direction. His eyes are locked on Arthur Vance, and his face is a carefully constructed performance of deep regret and profound apology. "Arthur," he says, his voice strained as he hurries forward. "I am so sorry. I came as soon as I got your call. I cannot apologize enough for this. This unacceptable behavior." "Frank," Arthur replies, his tone glacial. He gestures toward Leo, who has remained silent and watchful throughout. "Your apology should be directed to my grandson. He is the one your officer threatened and insulted." The chief turns to Leo, his expression shifting to one of paternal concern. "Young man. Mr. Vance. On behalf of the entire department, I am truly sorry for the way you were treated. This is not what we stand for." Leo simply nods, his expression unreadable. By now, the commotion has drawn attention. Curtains are being parted in the windows of the neighboring mansions. A few brave souls have stepped out onto their porches, their faces a mixture of curiosity and alarm. They are witnessing the unthinkable, a public dismantling of authority in the heart of their sheltered world. Arthur Vance allows the chief's apology to hang in the air for a moment before turning his attention to the sergeant, who is standing by, awaiting his orders like a soldier. "Sergeant," Arthur says, his voice ringing with command. The sergeant straightens up. "So?" Arthur looks directly at the frozen form of Darren Miller. "I want this man's badge and service weapon. Now." Chief Reynolds opens his mouth as if to say something about procedure, about union rules, but a single, sharp glance from Arthur silences him. The chief gives the sergeant a jerky, almost imperceptible nod. The order is given. The rub icon is crossed. The sergeant walks toward Miller. Miller, who has been standing as if paralyzed, finally seems to comprehend the totality of his ruin. "Sergeant, wait," he pleads, his voice thin and reedy. "It was a mistake. I was just doing my job." "Miller," the sergeant says, his voice flat, devoid of sympathy. He has seen bullies like Miller on the force for years. He feels no pity, only a grim sense of overdue justice. "Badge and weapon. On the hood of your car." Miller's hands tremble violently as he unclips his badge from his uniform. The small piece of polished metal feels impossibly heavy. It is his identity. His power. His shield. He places it on the hood of his patrol car with a soft, pathetic clink. Then he unbuckles his duty belt. His movements are clumsy, uncoordinated. He fumbles with the clasp of the holster. The weapon that gave him so much confidence now feels like a foreign object. He places the entire belt, gun and all, next to the badge. He stands there, disarmed and stripped of his authority, in front of his chief, his colleagues, and the wealthy residents of the neighborhood he swore to protect. He is no longer an officer. He is just a man. A man in a costume that no longer fits, his shame a palpable heat radiating from his skin. The sergeant places him under administrative leave, the words a cold formality, and directs him to the back of one of the patrol cars. Not for arrest, but for transport. For removal. Like a piece of garbage being cleared from the street. As the disgraced officer is being led away, his shoulders slumped in defeat, Arthur Vance takes a step forward. He leans in close to the open window of the patrol car, his voice a low, private whisper meant only for Miller's ears. "You judged a boy by the color of his skin and the clothes on his back," Arthur says, his words precise and unforgiving. "You saw what you wanted to see. A stereotype. A threat." Miller refuses to look at him, staring blankly ahead at the cage that separates the front and back seats. "Now," Arthur continues, "everyone will judge you. Not for what you look like, but for what you did. For the content of your character. And they will find nothing there but petty cruelty and ignorance." Arthur steps back. The car door closes with a solid, final thud. The patrol car pulls away, its lights now extinguished, carrying Darren Miller away from his career, his reputation, and the life he knew. The show is over. The public annihilation is complete. The fallout is not swift. It is a slow, grinding, and meticulous demolition. Arthur Vance is not a man who believes in half measures. He seeks not just punishment, but eradication. For Darren Miller, the nightmare is only beginning. His administrative leave becomes a suspension without pay. The police union, usually a ferocious defender of its own, is shown the high-definition video from Arthur's security cameras. They see the crystal-clear evidence of Miller's baseless aggression, hear the undisguised venom in his voice, and listen to the final, career-ending slur. Their lawyers advise them that the case is unwinnable. They quietly withdraw their support, leaving Miller to fend for himself. He is a liability they cannot afford. Miller is officially terminated from the Evergreen Bluffs Police Department for gross misconduct and violation of civil rights. But Arthur Vance is not finished. His legal team files a multi-million-dollar civil rights lawsuit, naming not only Miller personally, but the department and the city itself. They allege a pattern of discriminatory policing, using Miller's case as the spearhead. The city, facing a legal battle against a man with functionally limitless resources, quickly settles. The settlement is enormous, but the terms are what truly matter. As part of the agreement, the city must consent to a full-scale, independent review of the police department, to be overseen by a commission of Arthur Vance's choosing. Miller's personal legal troubles are even worse. The district attorney, under intense public and political pressure, brings criminal charges against him: official misconduct, felony harassment, and unlawful imprisonment of a minor. The video evidence is irrefutable. A jury convicts him in less than an hour. The judge, making an example of him, sentences him to 2 years in state prison. Not a country club facility, but a hard-time penitentiary where a disgraced ex-cop is the lowest form of life. He loses his pension. His savings are wiped out by legal fees. His wife leaves him. He is forced to sell his house to pay the civil damages awarded to Leo in a separate judgment. When he is eventually released from prison, he is a broken man in his late 40s with a felony record and no marketable skills. The only job he can find is working the graveyard shift as a janitor at a bus station on the other side of the state. He spends his nights mopping up filth under the harsh fluorescent lights, a ghost haunted by the memory of a boy, a gate, and a single, fatal assumption. His ruin is absolute. The systemic changes are just as profound. The Vance Commission's review of the EBPD is brutal. They uncover years of biased arrest statistics, mishandled complaints, and a deeply ingrained culture of racial profiling. Miller, it turns out, was not an anomaly, he was just the one who got caught. The investigation leads to the forced resignation of Chief Frank Reynolds and 2 of his top deputies. A dozen other officers are either fired or disciplined. Using the momentum from the scandal, Arthur Vance establishes a new charitable foundation, the Vance Initiative for Justice. Its mission is twofold: to provide top-tier legal defense for victims of police misconduct and to fund programs aimed at police reform and community oversight. The foundation becomes a powerhouse in the state, a permanent watchdog ensuring that what happened to Leo will not happen to others. They fund a project to review old cases handled by Miller and his cronies, resulting in 3 wrongful convictions being overturned within the first year. For Leo, the experience is transformative. The settlement money is placed in a trust, but the true reward is not financial. He becomes the youth ambassador for the Vance Initiative. Initially hesitant, he finds his voice. He discovers he has a gift for speaking, for connecting with other young people who have faced similar injustices. He shares his story not as a tale of victimhood, but as a lesson in empowerment. He travels to schools and community centers, teaching kids about their rights, about how to stay calm and composed in the face of authority, echoing the lessons his grandfather taught him. The incident solidifies his life's path. He excels in his studies, driven by a newfound purpose. He enrolls in a prestigious university, majoring in pre-law. He intends to fight the system not just from the outside, but from the very heart of it. The boy who was once profiled as a potential criminal is now on track to become a prosecutor or a judge, a guardian of the very justice that was denied to him on that sunny morning. The victim has become the victor, his future bright and full of promise, forged in the crucible of one man's prejudice. 2 years later. The sun is setting over evergreen bluffs, painting the sky in strokes of orange and purple. The air is warm, fragrant with the smell of jasmine from the meticulously tended gardens. It is the same street, the same opulent houses, the same profound quiet. But something has changed. The massive iron gates of the Vance estate are wide open. They are no longer a barrier designed to keep the world out, but an invitation to come in. A group of about 20 teenagers, a diverse mix of faces from every neighborhood in the city, are gathered on the sprawling lawn just inside. They are laughing, talking, sharing plates of food from a catered buffet. This is the inaugural mentorship event for the Vance Initiative's Youth Leadership Program. High school students, selected for their potential and promise, are being paired with mentors from the worlds of law, business, and public service. Standing near the gate, watching over the scene, are Leo and his grandfather. Leo is taller now, broader in the shoulders. He carries himself with an easy confidence that was forged, not feigned. He wears a smart blazer over a casual shirt, the very picture of a young man comfortable in his own skin, at home in any world. He is talking to a young girl, patiently explaining a point of law, his expression animated and engaging. Arthur Vance stands beside him, a quiet smile on his face. He looks at the gathering, at the vibrant energy of the young people on his lawn, and then he looks at his grandson. He sees not the boy who was harassed, but the man he is becoming, strong, compassionate, and wise. The old gates, once a symbol of exclusion and intimidating power, have been repurposed. They are now a gateway to opportunity, a portal through which the next generation of leaders can pass, nurtured and supported by the very power that was once used to oppress. The moral of the story settles with the evening light. Arrogance is a form of blindness. Prejudice is a self-inflicted wound. Officer Miller looked at Leo and saw a threat to be neutralized, a problem to be removed. He could not see the boy for who he was, a grandson, a student, a future leader. He saw a pawn on a chessboard, and in his eagerness to sweep it from the board, he failed to see the powerful pieces arrayed behind it. He built his world on a foundation of simple, ugly certainties about who belonged and who did not, who held power and who was powerless. And when that foundation was tested by reality, his entire world collapsed into dust. He wasn't defeated by an army or a complex legal strategy. He was defeated by a single, flawed assumption. He lost everything because he refused to see a person and saw only a profile. Justice, in the end, was not about a dramatic courtroom battle. It was about the simple, quiet, and devastating act of opening a gate and revealing the truth.